This video is about Australian Aboriginal Dreamtime healing with holographic kinetics, which is an extremely unique healing modality. And I was fortunate enough to have a session with Kalka, who is in this video. And the way that I've been describing my experience to my friends is it was like I'd been on a 10-day meditation retreat, meditating for 12 hours a day in a matter of minutes. Plus, I had a facilitator present who was helping me to establish an extremely direct connection to spirit and then guiding me to those moments in time where the spirit had been traumatized and helping me to heal that. But I'm not here to explain what holographic kinetics is. What I have for you is the founder of holographic kinetics, Steve Richards, his partner Lisa, and 6 of his students. And they're going to introduce themselves and talk a little bit about their journeys and the different insights that have emerged for them as they've gone deeper and deeper down the holographic kinetics rabbit hole. And there are some parts of the video that have been censored. Mostly names have been blanked out of individuals who have had the healing to protect their privacy. But we've also blanked out the names of some companies because, as we all know, there are a lot of negative things impacting society and our communities, social media, video games, things like this. But we didn't want to single out one particular company and then bring that drama on ourselves. And that was a group decision. I didn't just decide that on my own. We talked about that over lunch. But in saying all that stuff, I think this is an incredible organization and an incredible possibility. And it's a way for both Indigenous and non-Indigenous people to reconnect with the rich culture of this beautiful country. So if you do feel that connection, please pass this video on to others who are searching, because I have Indigenous mates who are so disconnected from their culture. And I know a bunch of non-Indigenous people who are so fascinated and so ready to become a part of that and start to acknowledge it and really appreciate it and love it, but they just don't know how to approach it. And I think that what Steve Richards has created is an amazing way for everybody to come together. So if you feel that as well, definitely pass this on.
My name's Leslie Awang Akers. I'm a Bidjirakari woman with also family ties to Badu Island. I've been doing holographic kinetics, been learning holographic kinetics for it's my 3rd year now, no, 2nd year. And being an Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander person and being a product of this environment, I had realised how much I had been programmed all my life. Until I started doing my first course, did I understand what colonisation has done to our people, has programmed us, has told us that our culture is evil, that their ways were better than ours, that we were uncivilised, and that we had to turn to religion to be better people. My parents were heavily programmed with religion. They were told to forget about their culture, not to speak language. They were under, the government brought in a Protection Act which controlled our lives, every aspect. We weren't allowed to hunt, weren't allowed to use traditional food. In fact, they forcibly removed our people onto reserves and missions and controlled every aspect. So learning about holographic kinetics has made me understand that this world is not run by human people. It's run by other forces. And through my own healings and through my own clearings have I realised what our culture, what we've always known, as Steve has said before, is that 60,000 years of ancient knowledge is how we used to heal our people. We didn't need doctors, we didn't need medicine. We lived without any intervention. And now, after over 200 years of colonisation, how we have all this sickness and misery and suicide. Our people are the highest percentage in the criminal justice system. We have the lowest mortality rate. In fact, I lost my mother very young and my father as well, all from flour, sugar, alcohol and drugs. That's not our ways. We never had any of that. This is the most powerful modality that I've ever known, and it's helped me battle my own medical conditions. It's helped me realise that the old ways is what we need to get back to. There is not a medication, there is not any other answer out here that can heal Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. Western society does not have the answer for our people. Dreamtime healing using holographic kinetics does.
My name's Sid Dominic. I'm a Kalkatungu man, or Kalkadoon in English. I've been involved with HK. I'm going into my 4th year this year. Before HK, my grandmother, being Kalkadoon descendant, and she spent a lot of her younger life on Palm Island. She was taken away from culture, wasn't allowed to speak her language, and just like Leslie's family suffered a lot of the same situations that has created trauma throughout her life and has been passed down intergenerationally. For me, HK has raised awareness of my culture, which was something that originally attracted me to HK. It gave me the opportunity to learn from Steve more about law and have a closer understanding to law and how to live life by law. I've noticed a lot of differences in myself with regards to post sessions, and also my children have noticed changes in them and have spoken to me about these changes on multiple occasions. So the areas which HK look at, not only the cause and effect set up in this lifetime, but also down the genetic hereditary line or in past lives, and having spirit to take us to that cause and effect, identify that cause of effect and recreate in that moment for better cycles in the future, is something that I'd never come across before. And to be able to be blessed to be involved in this team and with the work that Steve and Lisa has offered to us has been probably a big highlight in my life, and I look forward to continuing on and learning more.
My name is Kalkatunga Mitchell. I'm a Kalkadoon man as well as Sid. So I was raised through domestic violence. Became a drug addict myself there at one stage. Was lost my ways, and my brother also killed himself. So when my brother killed himself, I kind of lost my ways, as you could imagine, and I went to walk on country, and my country is Mount Isa, and this is where I came across Steve Richards' Dreamtime Healing. Steve did a healing on me regarding the suicide, and suicide's very close to my heart now. And watching Steve doing the healings on people who suffer suicides, and also people that I've done healings with as well, the results have been outstanding. So these are our ways of healing. I work heavily in Aboriginal communities. Recently been out to Cherbourg, took 180 kilograms off 12 Aboriginals in 12 weeks. One lady insulin dependent for 21 years. Just in the first 3 weeks, only through the healing, not through the physical training, she was taken off all her needles and non-diabetic, to the doctor's amazement. So I'll continue my work with Steve, doing Dreamtime Healing with holographic kinetics, because this is the only way. The problem is everybody's stuck in the visible world of pain. rather than being in the invisible world, looking from the outside in. So, yeah, that's my story.
So my name's Steve Richards. I'm the author and also the founder of Holographic Kinetics, actually Dreamtime Healing using Holographic Kinetics, because it's two facets. One facet is Aboriginal culture is based on the Dreamtime and the Dreamtime healing, and Holographic Kinetics, a mainstream understanding of the science behind it, which is putting man as a hologram of time and understanding how to access those fractals of the hologram to unfold time and space on those dimensions and change those dimensions. To understand about myself, I'm actually exactly what the English and the white Australian policy wanted to create. There's half caste, there's quarter caste, there's eighth caste, and now we've bred the black out of them. But you can't breed out the spirit. And the knowledge is in the blood, and the knowledge is in with the spirit. And my great-grandmother was taken away Aboriginal Protection Agency at the age of 14. Sorry, the age of 8, but found in horse shackles at the age of 14, sold to a drover and died at 15, giving birth to my grandmother. As my grandmother never had a mother, so the maids, the servants, the butlers, the gardeners, and some of the clever men in that community would teach her the old ways as they brought her up. And as she brought up, my grandmother would sit down with myself, my sister and my mother, and we'd all talk about the old ways. And I was always fascinated to understand why men would do what he'd do to others. I could never understand it, and my question was always why, and I wanted to know the answer. At the same time, I was taught about law. I was taught how this universe works. I was taught that you never harm another, because the moment you do, it's going to come back on you and you won't escape those cycles of time. You know, my sister also taught the same. And because her father was an American sailor, she had light skin, blonde hair. And when mother died at 15, she was adopting Aboriginal children. But the communities, with their bitterness and the anger that was locked into them from back in those moments of time, hated anything to do with white society whatsoever. And because she had American sailor and her skin was very light coloured, they called her white trash. I remember coming home one day and that affected her. I looked at her and she was in tears because of the rejection and discrimination created by our own communities. As she got older, she saw no point here in Australia. So she put a car and a caravan on a ship and went to Africa. She got to Africa and she said, "Where's the worst place in Africa?" They said, "Uganda." She went to Uganda. She said, "Where's the worst place in Uganda?" They said, "Kingcome." And this was a war zone. There were thousands of children homeless. She pulled up under a tree and opened what today is the largest orphanage in the world. She did that purely simply because she saw no value in her own country because of the discrimination which comes from both sides. And this is something we have to stop. And that discrimination, I believe, was created actually by the churches. The churches, when they took away those children, built the daylights out of them, told them they were evil, they were into black magic, they were into witchcraft, and the answer was Jesus. I remember my grandmother, she'd always walk around with rosary beads in her hand, Jesus on the wall, Mary on the wall, constantly praying to Jesus and Mary. And as a young bloke, I looked and I could see the programming that she couldn't see of how she'd been totally been programmed. As I went on, I wanted to know more about my own culture. And by the time I was 8, well, first off 4 years old, I had memory of the past. By the time I was 8, there were certain things I could do. By the time I was a teenager, I could do my magic. But I want to know, what am I doing, how am I doing it? I spent 50 years of researching our old culture and understanding the multi-dimensions of man and what exists. We do not call anything in from other dimensions. That's our problem today. Too many people go and explore with drugs and alcohol, and they open wormholes into these other dimensions. And other things come through from other dimensions and take over the bodies. Today I look at our Western way of thinking and the Western society, and I look at governments throwing buckets of money at them. I look at the suicides going through the roof. In 2005, I was awarded the Suicide Prevention Australia Life Awards in 2005 for turning suicides around Aboriginal communities. 2006, I was nominated for Human Rights Medal Award. In 2007, I was nominated for Australian of the Year. My sister was awarded the Order of Australia for what she achieved before her death. I look at the outcomes that we're getting, we have been getting for 50 odd years. But you see, I'm outside the system. There's no money. We've had government policy where governments have said, people in government have said to me, the government doesn't want to be seen assisting private enterprise. Hang on, private enterprise is the backbone of this country. Why does government not want to see us assisting private enterprise? When the government, and you have the Royal Commission and Deaths in Custody report, the Rights of Indigenous Australia, when you have these reports and they state how important the spirit is in the life of Aboriginal people, and only psychiatrists with this knowledge should be going to for assistance, and yet there is no psychiatrist in this country with this knowledge. There are no psychiatrists or psychologists with the understanding of spirit. What do we do today? What does mainstream do today? It looks at a physical body and says, I see you, I touch you, I feel you, therefore everything must be there in the seen world. Well, our culture for 60,000 years was aware of the unseen world. And the unseen world is that you have a spirit, you have a soul, you have a physical body, you have a consciousness. You have multi-dimensions of you have organs. Each one knows its own role within you. So the communication of all living things is spirit. The trees, the rocks, the plants, everything in nature is alive. And our culture knew that. And what they say, we need to heal the spirit. Well, you show me one psychiatrist that's healing the spirit. The moment you mention spirit to government bodies, first thing is it's a connotation of spirituality, which is based in religion. It has nothing to do with religion whatsoever. Everything alive is alive because it has a spirit. It is the essence of the life form behind it. When the spirit of the tree leaves the tree, it's dead. When the spirit of you leaves you, you're dead. But the essence is the spirit that comes in at the moment of conception, which is the spark of life. We go back with people 2 years during conception, and we have the spirit talking out of the body, where the trauma is. What happened? Mum and dad are talking about having me aborted. How does it make you feel, little spirit? They don't want me. All their life not want us locked into that dimension, because once that dimension is created, it continues through time. What are we? We are multidimensional beings in a multidimensional world. If I take photos of you with killing photography, I see all these other energies around you rotating, moving around you, changing shape. You have 7 bodies. You have a past, present, future, past, and you have a past, present, future, future. And the 7th is the change, which is under universal law, is the physical reality we're seeing. As I say to the scientist, hand me a thought. You can't hand me a thought because it's invisible. Yet stop and have a look at all the things in the visible world that's been created by that invisible thought in reality today. So where's our mainstream? Our mainstream is looking at the physical world of reality and trying to justify everything in the physical world of reality. It's end product. First is the invisible, then the visible. First the invisible changes, then the body changes to fit into that invisible change. When you have other bodies beside you here in your field, and those bodies are out of balance, then you get a dis-at-ease with the bodies and you create disease in the physical reality of end product, physical body. You see, we need, and our system needs, to understand the old ways, because the future lies in the knowledge of the past. For it's the knowledge of the past, when put in application, that can change the physical world of reality today and change the future. The hardest part is that in all these years, we've never had one cent of funding, and yet we see buckets of money thrown at the same system. It's a failure. Why do you keep throwing buckets of money at something that's a failure and maybe open another 20 or 30 offices with the same program, hoping Aboriginal people will come to you, and Aboriginal people won't go to mental health because they know all you want to do is give them medication. And that's not the answer. They want to be cleared of the issues they've got. Now, half the medication that's been given a lot of these people, they've actually been misdiagnosed. They've been misdiagnosed because our system says these things don't exist. I can prove these things exist. I can prove I work with soldiers of war, and I have spirits of Viet Cong speaking Vietnamese out of the body after 40 years of mental trauma. I worked with soldiers from Iraq, Afghanistan, Somalia, and a few other places around the world. We now have 1,250 students trained in 42 countries around the world that value what we're doing, see what we're doing. And they started looking at things that are working. I've been high security prisons for mentally insane, turned them around. I worked with some of the most violent men in the prison system, turn them around. And the mainstream system today, for a lot of people to get in, is a waiting list for weeks ahead before they can get in. Well, if you've got suicidal thoughts, which may not even be yours, but something else in there, then you need to be addressed. Not in 7 weeks' time, because that's too late. When these kids take alcohol and they take the drugs, you get other beings coming in from other dimensions, and they want you to commit suicide because they want your vehicle. We can take these beings out, no trouble, in one session. We've proved ourselves in 50 years of research. We've worked on well over 100,000 clients and got results. And most of the time we get results in one session. How much can we save the government? Billions. Or do they want to keep throwing money away? What we need is we need a college. We need a college where we can start training health workers in the old ways to understand the old ways and to make the change that need to be. You see, not only is this based on Aboriginal culture, but this is based across the board. We can help mainstream with this as well. I don't care what nationality you are. We can make changes. And we've proved ourselves time and time again. Anybody have anything to say regarding that?
Yeah, I'll say something. So my name's Rachel Shields. I'm a descendant of the Whalen and Gamilaroi people in northwest New South Wales. And I was lucky enough to grow up throughout Australia and sit with lots of old people from different countries. So I've been exposed to our old way of knowing from a very early age. And I've also been exposed to the broader population of Australia. So many different cultures, many different ways of living, thinking and being. And as a child, I quickly clued onto the fact that there's a shared sickness, so to speak, that runs through different people. In my own journey of growing up, inherited traumas, my mum's part of the stolen generation, and facing that within myself and always reaching a place that I couldn't break through. So there was always somewhere I couldn't crack by myself. And I worked long and hard on myself to try and reclaim myself from things that I was aware of that didn't belong to me, but I'd inherited them. And it's a big challenge when you're walking in what everyone's identifying as the mainstream system. I never wanted to talk about it because I already knew that if I talk about it, I might end up in a mental ward or on some form of medication. And inside my heart, I already knew that's not the way. But I couldn't find a way through other than being in nature and sitting with them old people very quietly was one way that was medicine for me. So as I've grown and stayed true to this deeper connection and this deeper knowing, which just happened to be a foundation for me from early childhood, I did find my way to holographic kinetics with Dreamtime Healing with holographic kinetics, and that was like a key straight to what we're saying, the cause of the effect. So it's not something that anyone outside of you can tell you. So as a practitioner, it's a very privileged position to support people to actually access that cause by themselves with their spirit. So when you're in there yourself and you're seeing the cause of this thing that's been affecting you, it could have been for years, it could have just happened yesterday, but you're overwhelmed, you can't see clearly. It's a relief and it's amazing and it's very understandable in that moment of time of how certain things get set up, that it is very multidimensional, that this reality is not flat or linear or two-dimensional. It's something that when you experience it, obviously you're going to have a better understanding, but it's been here for thousands upon thousands of years through all of our ancestors walking proper way and knowing how to live a balanced life in relation to themselves, their spirit, and the greater law of life. So that's why this place, I reckon it's way older than 60,000 years that this population of people were living like this, but that's how it was achievable. And then, like we're saying, just over 200 years, and look at the state that this continent is in. Look at the state that society is in all across the planet. You have to stop and wonder, why is it like that? This isn't normal. This isn't something we should condone and just, accept as reality. There's something that's not right. So through holographic kinetics, you can better understand those dimensions of reality. You can better understand the old way of knowing as Steve's translated it in a manner that we can all understand. And as he's saying, it doesn't matter what culture, it doesn't even matter what belief or background you come from. If you just take a moment to actually sit and listen and to better understand, then you'll see how effective it is as a means for restoring balance within your own psyche, your own physiology. And then it goes back out into the community, because the more of us that are balanced and healthy within, it is a flow-on effect to our children. We can even heal our ancestors through working on ourselves. So that's part of the greatest thing that I actually would talk about with Dreamtime Healing with Holographic Kinetics, is that you can heal the past from the present and we can create a new future together. So there's something very beautiful in that. That's a gift to everyone. So I know lots of old people hold on to knowledge tightly because they've seen what's happened in the world. They've seen how people misuse something that's sacred and very deep. But it looks like we all need to get back to our health, because a lot of people are very spiritually sick, and a lot of people are now doing to one another what's been done to them. So we have people in our own cultures that are hurting one another, and they're replaying that colonizing program of division, of abuse. So they're doing to others what's been done to them. And we need to stop this, and we can stop this, and this is a beautiful way to be able to do that. So thank you, Steve, and thank you, Lisa.
I've witnessed what Steve does. He's taught us his ways as practitioners. We've had the experience of turning people around with suicide. Like I said before, suicide's close to my heart. So I can't reiterate enough the importance of having a look at Steve Richards' Dreamtime Healing Organisation. I'll give an example, Steve.
Sure.
Okay, so she doesn't mind me saying her name. So she had trauma issues, sexual abuse. She's 38. The doctors told her by the time she's 44, she'll be in a wheelchair. So I'm a personal trainer. So we took 20 kilos off her in 8 weeks after the healing. So those degenerative tissue around the actual spine actually started repairing themselves after the healing. They started actually physically changing. She's not going to be in a wheelchair by the time she's 44. She's now having the best mobility in her life that she's ever going to have. She was so amazed, she brought me her daughter, 15 years old, self-harmer, cutter, cuts herself here, legs everywhere, very overweight as well. So nothing ventured, nothing gained, as Steve says. She brought her over, and Spirit took us back to third trimester in her mother's womb. Be there, thank you, what's happening? She says, it's dark, I can't move, something's in the way. Thank you, continue. It's my twin sister, she's dead. I looked over at her mother put her head down. How'd that make you feel? Sad. Why sad? Because my sister died and I lived. Thank you. We recreated a whole new dimension. Spirit said, bring forward the dead sister. I ran out of oxygen. I didn't form, she said. How'd that make you feel? Angry. Sad. Why angry? Because my sister lived and I didn't. Are you the cutter? Yes, I am, she said. So everything has a right to move on. I explained to the sister that she can move on to the next timeline, stop cutting her sister. She agreed. So we released her back to her own timeline. Now, has not cut herself in the last 12 months. She cut herself for 5 years, took her own life 3 times. Last time failed. She felt terrible because she couldn't even do that. Now, the doctors took her off the medications. She's not on medications, and it actually says that in the certificate. No medication. She lost 36 kilos by herself as we cleared the eating disorder by herself. This is a 15-year-old. So as I sit back and I observe what Dreamtime Healing and Holographic Kinetics can do, so I'm reaching out there for whoever needs to be reached out to, is to have a look at this organisation and what it does. I came to Steve because of my brother's killing himself. And that's what drew me towards this. I've experienced suicide. I understand suicide. So for all those who have experienced it or thinking about it, these are the ways, our ancient ways, our 60,000 years of ancient wisdom and knowledge. Go back to it.
Every event created, and this is part of science itself to understand it, and science is part of law, and that everything created has a cause, it has a start, has a cause. The problem today is an effect. Now we know that if you've got a cause, you've got an effect. You actually have to find where that cause came from. Excuse me. So it's only your spirit that can actually access where that cause or that effect has come from. No matter how far back in time. We could go back 5 lifetimes ago where a war has taken place and you're part of that war and you've been traumatised by the death, and that death can come through every lifetime because you're born under that dimension and you come by the laws of that dimension. We can find things that may come down the genetic hereditary line of the great-great-great-great-grandmother, and we can bring us through, and next minute she's crying her eyes out of the baby like a baby on the table, through the person on the table, telling us what took place back in time with her trauma. We change that trauma, that loops time, puts you outside time, and all of a sudden what was affecting you is no longer affecting you. You see, everything has a start, and every start will create a continuation through time. So your thoughts can create a thought form, your thought form creates a life form, and the universe says, hang on, it's a life form, it's got a right to survive. You're the host. So you're going to keep feeding it with only what it knows as a program, and it's going to grow through time to try and take over you. When that happens, it becomes an internal created entity, because your action-reaction has been feeding it, and it's becoming intelligent. Until we find where it came from, we unfold time and space and we take it out. Then all of a sudden, no more voices. You see, it's not just interdimensional interferences taking place. We look at the prisoners. The judge says, do you have anything to say before we pass sentence? Now, I hear the youth in the prison system, and they say to the judge, I don't know, Your Honour, why I keep doing the same thing over and over. That tells me he's stuck in time. I don't know, Your Honour, we have a few beers, it's like something takes over. It does, but no one's listening. We are multidimensional beings in a multidimensional world, and we have to find how to access the cause of that effect. For only can we access the cause of the effect can we make changes to the cause of that effect, which then change the future. Nothing has to be the way it was. We've learnt that anything can be accessed and anything can be changed once you understand it. We feel that all psychiatrists, psychologists and counsellors and mental health workers across the board should be trained in this to understand it. We feel people should be trained in every community to understand their own community again, because most of the knowledge has been lost. Only then I think we're going to have the changes. Words, patterns, they sound pretty good, some of the stuff I put down on paper, but let's see end product. Who's following for end product? Who's researching where the funding goes and what outcome they're getting? We can make changes in any field. We can go anywhere in the world and make changes to any trauma. And I just feel anybody out there should be listening and should be observing more about the capabilities of what we do and listening to our old ways, because it's our old ways that really have the keys to the future. And if we don't start listening now, there's a good chance we won't have a future the way we're going, because we're totally violating this universe and its laws. And we have to come back to alignment with this universe and its laws, because it's very intelligent. And when you start working with it, you'll see just how intelligent this universe is. Man is only a small pawn in the great big game, and we really need to make changes and to understand more about this universe and its laws and start to align ourselves with these universal laws. You know, we have places where you go in and you take, you know, all the trees down whole areas to build a new suburb. And you create trauma in that area in nature. Those trees have been traumatised. The birds have been traumatised because their nests are gone. Koalas in the area have been traumatised. And you build houses in a traumatised area. Excuse me. Then down the track, you worry why you got all these problems in that area. because those spirit of those animals, the spirit of the trees, spirit's there, and they're going to have an effect on you until we change and start to align ourselves with this universe and its laws. And this can be done just by acknowledging and understanding how to acknowledge this universe and apply ourselves to these laws.
I can talk about my own story, how I got to, or how my spirit made me sit probably like 10 years ago in front of Steve Richards' holographic kinetic store. Luckily, because thanks to HK, I'm still alive. I'm one of those cases. I was like suffering depression for years and years, abusing drugs, any drug I could get my hands on and escape, I took it. And on the table, it took me back into a past life when my mother died. And I was very sad. I think I was really ugly as well, so I didn't have many friends. So when she died, I left the village, I took all my clothes and left. And Steve asked me, so what happens next? And I'm like, oh, I jump off a cliff and I die. And he's like, okay, so how old are you there? And I'm like, I'm 24. And then he asked me, so how old are you now? And I'm like, I'm 24. So I would have repeated exactly the same story again. So I got off the table, I felt quite wobbly. And he did other stuff as well. I didn't quite understand what he did at the time. And I looked for my depression for 3 days and it was gone. So ever since then I thought, wow, this really works. And I got to study over the years more and more and more. And I could see more changes within myself, in the realities I was able to create around me, my children, and also the effects when I was running sessions and being a practitioner myself, the changes within the people. So yeah, it's really the only thing that works for myself. And learning all the teachings behind it, the world makes sense. The world is crazy at the moment. Everything, there's so many questions, and HK has got an answer to each of those questions. Not just the answer, it can really change it all. So first for myself, and then the broader picture, the more people clear, it's got a big effect on the collective as well. Thank you.
So the goal of holographic kinetics, as you can see, we've got an amazing team of practitioners here just with us. And we also have, as Steve said, we've trained 1,250 students in 42 countries around the world. So the aim and dream for holographic kinetics is to train as many youths in communities as possible to bring them back to help assist clear their own community. And by clearing the community, as you know, that will also help individuals with their trauma as well. So the dream is to train as many practitioners as we possibly can in holographic kinetics in both non-Indigenous and Indigenous communities. Because as Rachel said, unless we change what's in here and get back in connection with our own spirit, then everything that we're feeling and affected by in the world is going to ripple out to others. And when you get that connection back with your own beautiful, wonderful spirit, then you can start to help others to change the world. And yeah, so.
Thank you. Liz, my partner, has been with me for 23 years. I lose count. And yeah, assists, with a lot of our Facebook sites, sites for students and teachers, and so she's been very, very helpful in what we're doing to get us to where we are so far today. And as I said, we do have a great little team here that has the ability really to go anywhere in the world on call to make changes. And I don't care where that is. I understand America has over 200,000 souls suffering mental trauma. Well, we work with souls and we make changes 80% of the time in one session. I'd like to see 4 sessions on most of them to clear all the underlying stuff that's there. But I know that we can make changes. So right now, I think many countries should be looking at the traumas going on with their military personnel, we know what's going on. We know how it works. The point is, I know that psychiatrists don't know how it works. And that's the difference. We can make a change.
Steve, maybe like if you could explain to the people like the shootings in America's, what's happening to those people that are doing the shootings?
Well, if you stop and you have a look at every single mass shooting in America, every single one of them was on medication. And what's the medication do? The medication lowers your resistance. When your resistance is lowered to dumb you and numb you, and other forces from other dimensions jump your body, you can't fight them off. So what happens, they then take over. They can't express out of your body because it's being dumbed and numb. So what takes place is as you come off your medication, then these other beings can take over. Then they say, you're worse than you were. You need stronger medication. Well, the key in the first place wasn't the medication. The key in the first place was the fact that they've let something in from another dimension that's now manipulating that body and needs to be taken out. And we can take those out usually in one session, and all of a sudden you're back in control of you. Medication is the answer. And the medication, purely and simply look at it, this is a pharmaceutical setup to make billions of dollars out of every single medication that's been created. And they're falsifying, as far as I'm concerned, they're misdiagnosing people by telling them they've got something they don't have. And we can prove that any time, anywhere. We can clear a good 80% of those people in one session by whatever's interfering with them and talking out of them. Very important we understand that. Anyone else wish to say? Okay.
Over the last few years, I've been able to venture into Aboriginal communities, and in these journeys, I've been able to identify, through building relationships with traditional owners, some of the issues within communities. And you look at alcoholism, you look at domestic violence, chronic disease, fetal alcohol syndrome, suicide. These are all issues that I've seen Dreamtime Healing, Holographic Kinetics make changes to and recreate, so there is no issue. It's not. I had a lot of non-Indigenous people come to me too and say, look, this is Aboriginal healing, are you allowed to do it on us? Like everything that Steve says that is alive has a spirit. If it's got a spirit, you can communicate with it. And that's what we do. As practitioners, we don't really do anything. We facilitate a process where the person on the table and their spirit heal themselves. It creates that opportunity for communication between the two. And at that point, they're able to externalize all those thoughts, feelings and emotions associated with that moment, blow it off their timeline and recreate a new one. In the past, in the present, in the past, the future. And that's the beauty of it. Like, this doesn't come with colours. We're all one colour in spirit. And look at the media, how they pump up all the issues in Aboriginal communities. These issues are in non-Indigenous communities as well. You look at small business and the suicide rate in that area of unsuccessful businesses. You look at the pastoralists, farmers that are dealing with drought, they're dealing with fire, they're dealing with floods year after year, and without a lot of government support themselves. Dreamtime Healing has the potential, has the tools to make a big difference in all of Australia, not just Indigenous Australia. But acknowledging those ways of being and knowing of Indigenous community is important. And that's the first step, acknowledging it, acknowledging what we have here, what Steve and Lisa have created over the time, and teaching. You need that education, but you need the funding to do it.
I just wanted to bring up the fact that through this process, as an individual, you're actually enabled to take responsibility. So when I was sitting with the old people as a child, one thing that was always taught was everything needs to be finished. So business needs to be finished. Part of sorry business is also about completion, with the spirit of another who lived inside your heart as that person, how they filled that part of your life. and setting them free from you so that they can be a free spirit again. They're not trapped here by anything we're holding on to with them. It's the same with us in our inner dimensions. Like, we have a lot of unfinished business running that's loaded with programs of whatever we decided in that moment of time. So through this process, we actually get to finish business. That's how the change can occur, and because we take responsibility in that moment to see what we set up. So this is another favourite part for me, is actually having the ability to complete business. Because in this moment, how would I finish it just thinking this is all that exists? How would I be able to access that, finish what I know is incomplete inside, and therefore creating the disturbance, the imbalance, the effect, whatever you want to call it, it's definitely there, it exists. So we get to finish business, and when the balance is brought back, everything can move forward, and it's much more profound than we could possibly put words to, and it's amazing.
Where did you come from, Laurie?
Where did I come from? Well, my story isn't very exciting. I did go through a lot as a child, and I had unhappy upbringing. I was suicidal. Quite a few times through my life. But the reason I came to HK, I tried a lot of different modalities, learned a lot of different modalities. But nothing was effective. I had a lot of return clients all the time, and it seemed to cycle a lot. And I couldn't understand why this was happening. Anyway, I heard about Steve, so I went to one of his courses. I did 7 days, which was hectic as it was just crazy for me. At the end of it, I just had never felt so happy and free and light, and I just can't even express it. It's just amazing. Some of the modalities I was practicing was acupuncture, all sorts of massage. I was doing a Japanese style spinal manipulation, amongst other things. A little bit of reflexology, aromatherapy, all these sorts of things, and all of them were effective in their own way. They sort of appeared to be helping the clients, but as I said, it seemed to help them for a period of time, but then it would cycle around again, and they'd be coming back with the same sorts of issues. That's when a friend of mine told me about Steve. And like I said, I went to his course and all this wonderful stuff happened, and I started suggesting that some of my clients try it. They did, and the same thing. Instead of seeing people for time and time and time again, they were cleared. Word got around, you just get people coming, yeah. So
You didn't have no more clients?
no, I've got clients coming in, but yeah, a lot of my clients I never see again. So I don't know why that is, but
Good way to get rid of people.
yeah. So it helped me. I have no Aboriginal blood, but it definitely helped me. It is for everyone. It's not just for Aboriginal people. The Aboriginal people were the ones connected and been connected for so long, and they and I feel very privileged to have met Steve and that he's actually shared this knowledge with me.
Just on that note as well, Mick, if the clients, like the aim of holographic kinetics is not to bring the client back and back for session after session, year after year, it's to clear them in 1 or 2 sessions so that they can move on and, like Rachel says, have that future and not be stuck in the trauma. And for us, we're looking at the statistics of the suicide, and for me as well, I've worked a lot with young people in other jobs that I've done, and seeing the suicide rates not only in Indigenous communities but also in non-Indigenous communities, and seeing our beautiful young people taking their lives, it just makes me ask the question, how many more of those children have to take their lives before mainstream and other organisations will look at something different and alternative to what they've been doing? While all this funding is going to all those areas and year after year not much is changing, all these young people are constantly taking their lives, and it's just give this a chance and see what changes can be made so that we don't have to have 38 suicides in one community, another 5 this week, another 10 that week. These children need some sort of hope for the future, and if the way the world is at the moment, they're seeing trauma everywhere, so they're giving up. And yet this modality, as Kalka's shown with the youth that he's worked with, we've worked with people who have been suicidal one session. They're not suicidal anymore. So how many more need to take their lives before mainstream and the government and even communities will look and say, well, let's just give this a try. Let's just see what we can do.
One difference is, and don't get me wrong, look, mental health workers and mental health people, they're going to become mental health workers because they want to assist others. So their intent is right, but what it is the programming, is what they're taught and what they're programmed to believe. And to understand the word psych, as in psychology and psychiatry, the word in their own teaching means study of the soul. Well, just as you've got a forward and you've got a backwards, you've got a left, you've got a right, you've got a high, you've got a low, there's an equal opposite to everything in this universe. So the day you're born, that little vehicle have the soul memories in the cells of the hologram of all the ancestors through time, which we can access. For the moment of conception, the spark of life is spirit that comes into the vehicle, it gives the life. So, as we have an external to an internal, we have an internal to an external. There's always an equal opposite. So from the day you're born, external to internal, I don't know about where religion turns and says you're born in sin. Well, to me, a baby's born innocent. And it believes. It believes mum, it believes dad, it believes the people around it. So what's it do? External to internal, it starts to take on their programming the child becomes part of the soul, which is locked in the cells as memories of experiences. The spirit is the internal being to the external being, which is here for you. It says, tell me what you want, and I'll rearrange the universe for you. But what we do is, our ego allows our soul to take over, which is the programming. As we get older, we go to school, we get programmed. We start watching TV, we get programmed. We get programmed by our phone. We're programmed now by the G5 that's coming through. Yeah, the mind can be programmed very easily. So young children are very vulnerable to the programming. We're finding lately so many parents contacting us with children that have been taken over by entities and other forces that are coming through some of these games. One of the ones we found lately is coming through, and it's amazing, I never even heard of it before, and that was and we have had, in the last 3 weeks, we've had at least 8 or 9 people that have had problems with their children. Some have stole the parents' credit card and used it just to pay for the game because they've been intimidated through the program by who put the program together, and through they've been told that they haven't got enough money, they're poor, you can't keep up the latest. So kids are stealing the mother and the father's bank card and utilising that on the internet. We find that some of these kids are going out and stealing, so they don't feel bad about themselves because they can't keep up with it. Now where is people like, where's its, what's the word I'm looking for here? Where's its responsibility in what it's putting out there that's affecting children? We have children taken over by entities coming through some of these programs. What's going on out there today? And the government's supposed to be keeping track of things when it comes to young people. So why is it allowing these to take place also without looking at it? We have organisations set up just to monitor what's right for the kids and what's bad for the kids. Well, if this is what I'm aware of, what is mainstream aware of when it comes to kids? And what are they doing? Are they sticking them on Prozac? What are they doing? How are they dealing with these kids? Because we find that we're taking the antis out of the kids that have come through. And all of a sudden the kids back in balance again. So the question is, our mainstream system, I know the people that have become psychiatrists and psychologists did it for a reason, to want to help. But we have trained so many psychologists and some psychiatrists, some doctors, even professors have come to us to be trained because they're desperate, because as I say, nothing's working. And they went in the business to make a change, and they're desperate now because they don't see a change under our mainstream system. The whole system needs to change. The whole system needs to broaden its horizon and start to look outside the square to what's outside there that's working. And then turn around and get one of the universities to back with a research development program to monitor and observe what takes place. Because I know that we need thousands of people trained to make a big change just in this country. Apart from overseas. And we have people overseas very interested in what we're doing. But the point is, we wanted this back in our own country. And we need to get this back in our own country so our communities have people trained and understand how to deal the old ways of the problem and the issues that are taking place.
If you look at every inquiry that's ever done about royal deaths in custody, stolen generation, the atrocities that have happened with Indigenous people all over the world, go back and have a look at those inquiry reports and see the recommendations. It says about helping Indigenous people heal their spirit. The keys are in these reports. These reports are over 20 years old, and still billions of dollars are just being thrown at the wrong intervention and preventative programs. Nothing is working. 20, 30 years has passed, and we're still dealing with the same issues, if not at a higher rate. Every inquiry, every report that is produced about Indigenous people and the intergenerational trauma that is carrying down from generation to generation all around the world, the keys are in those reports, but nothing's been done about it. The only way to heal the spirit is using this modality, because everything else deals with the soul.
I'm going to bring up Sherbrooke again. So I've been a trainer for 30 years, so I know body transformation inside out, really. And no ego to the table, but I do hold Australian records on fastest weight loss. Using real food, by the way. Not fads, not protein powders, not tablets, not any of that crap. The healings that were done on the people to lose their weight was, the cause of effect was their emotional eating. So if you're stuck in time, no matter how far back it goes back, of emotional eating, whether it be through sexual abuse, domestic violence, relationship issues, people pleaser, anxiety, depression, bipolar, schizophrenia, you're going to gain weight with the food. So by going into Sherbrooke and doing the healings on some of them, with this, that's the reason why, a lot of weight was taken off them. I mean, 180 kilograms off 12 Aboriginals in just 12 weeks. That's phenomenal. So the point of what Steve's organisation can do in clearing trauma issues, weight loss, because that's what causes weight, is emotional eating, is just absolutely phenomenal. It covers all aspects. Nothing ever has to be the way it was, just like Steve says. So people just have a go at something that actually works instead of something that doesn't work. It's a win situation. You can't go wrong. So just try something different. You might surprise yourself.
We have the web out there, www.holographickinetics.com, and there's about 90 pages of information, about 20 odd videos, at least 20 videos on that one. And then there's Calca's side.
That's calcasonlinetraining.com.au, where you can go onto my website and hop on there, and I supply you the food plan, lots of food, real food, lots of food, eat the food and you'll shrink. Too much food, how cool is that? Structured programs as far as your body transformation goes, and also how you can get in contact with practitioners to do that healing. This is the fastest weight loss website in the world, and Steve's modality is the only one of its kind in the world. There's nothing like it on the planet, working from the inside out. So yeah, hop on there, have a look at it. You'll lose your weight, won't be stuck in time of action reaction. You become light physically and mentally. Can't go wrong. How easy.
And if any community wants, they can go to the website and always contact us. If we have, and we are looking at present, we'd love to train hundreds of young people if we could, preferably between the age of 18 to 28, to learn this for their own community. I find as they get older, then they get set in their programs. But 18 to 28 I find is a good age where they start searching for something in the fourth cycle. By 18 to 28, they're looking for something in life to be doing, and they're still open to understanding without having all the old programs locked in. I see a lot of young people today are rebelling against the parents and the grandparents and the communities, and that rebellious attitude is because of the program. And I hate to say it, but I really see it, and I have seen it with a lot of people, and that is because of the programming of the parents and the grandparents when it comes to religion, and trying to force it on their kids, and the kids are rebelling because inside them they know that that's not the answer, and they need to find it. We have young people come to us and they want to know all about the old ways because they're not being taught anymore. They're lost. How many others out there that haven't come to us are lost and want to know the old ways? We'd love to teach kids to understand the old ways. You won't have the crime you got, because once you understand law, you won't violate law. There's consequences to violation of it. You'll stick by law, you'll stick by it, and you won't have the problems we've got today. You won't want to touch the drugs, you won't want to go out there and get on the alcohol and get pissed. It's just not there. Once you understand how this works, you'll align yourself with the universe and its laws, and it makes massive changes. As I said, we believe there should be somebody in every single community trained to understand this. We would like to see psychiatry, psychology, counselling and holographic kinetics as part of a mainstream system right across the board. But trouble is, holographic kinetics is outside the mainstream system because it's going to be understanding Indigenous healing or Aboriginal healing. And we hope that mainstream can come to them, because the keys, once we train people with this is the keys, this gets the results. And it can save the government millions.
So powerful. If you're looking for those links to holographic kinetics, they'll be down in the description below. If you enjoyed this video, please let us know by clicking the like button or leaving a comment down below. Don't forget to hit subscribe, and if you'd really like to help us out, you can pick up some merch from our Teespring store or donate to us directly on Patreon. Thanks for watching.